It becomes a political thing where so these people are against these people. We're paying attention to fighting each other, whether you're wearing a mask, or you're vaccinated or not, or you're gay or white or black or whatever. We'll just keep fighting about bullshit while the laws are being passed. And we just keep avoiding that stuff without paying attention to it.
I know the power of story, and everybody has got a story.
Portland, of all places, there's a lot of tough conversations.
Well, we're going to explore what we can do to make a difference in the community. We're going to hear a lot of opinions and ideas.
The mission of Portland Interview Magazine podcast is to connect. This is the Portland Interview Magazine podcast with your host, David Bentley, on TalkCast PDX.
Hi, welcome to Portland Interview Magazine, or welcome back for those that are following us time to time, week to week on our different episodes here, discovering the unique personalities in Portland and helping make up the fiber of this great city. And today we have Tony Iyke here in the studio with us today, taking time out from his busy schedule, staying very busy during COVID, and quite frankly, I've never known him not to be busy. But anyway, so we're glad to have him here today. And Tony, we're going to have some discovery here today that I am going to be asking questions that I've never asked Tony before, because I'm real curious about some of his background and things like that, because he's, quite frankly, very successful in a lot of things that he's put himself into. And so I think that'll be really interesting and encouraging and probably insightful for all of us. So welcome, Tony.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So, Tony, we only have so much time. I could make you a 3-part episode, quite frankly. I know I could. Okay, so with your background and everything. So I'm going to move pretty quick, but at the same time, I don't want that to shorten some of the thoughts that you have, because I think you add a lot of rich insights on things. But let's start with letting the audience know a little bit about Tony, and let's get some background, because I find that to be interesting right out of the gate.
So my name is Tony Iyke. Background, born and raised Nigerian. I'm American now, moved out here almost 2 decades ago, and love it. Moved out to Portland about 16 years ago, and even fell in love more with the country and the state, because of how green it is. It was supposed to be a visiting trip, and it just turned into this, but I
am going to have to jump in here, because there's too many interesting thoughts I have on you just coming from Nigeria.
Nigeria. So,
there's a lot of talk from politics to everything on integration, things of that nature.
Yeah.
You're African American. You're coming in from that country. Can you tell me a little bit about that process? Because I would have no clue.
It's a beautiful country, very, very diverse.
Nigeria.
Extremely diverse. It's worse than New York. Not in a bad way, but the diversity. In Nigeria, we have about 200 million people with over 200 and something dialects. You drive 100 miles, you don't understand what that person is talking about. It is insane. So it's a hodgepodge of so many cultures, so many people in one tiny space the size of the state of Texas. That's how big Nigeria is, landmass wise, but has a population of over half the US in it. So densely populated, really friendly, nice people for the most part. They have some political crisis going on. It's always been there, and I think they're now working to dig into the root of it and how the colonial masters put the country together. It wasn't supposed to be a country. It never was. And it is comprised of people that necessarily don't like each other. It's like half Christian, half Muslim. It's like oil and water. They're not supposed to mix. The Muslim has been trying to convert the whole country to Muslim, which is impossible, because half of it are Christians. They believe in something else. So, and
there's always that conflict.
That conflict has always been there, So the colonial people, they went behind each other's back and signed this deal to make it a country. So I think it was supposed to be like Niger area, and there's this country called Niger, right? So it's like, oh, the Niger area people. No, it was kind of a made up name for these guys. And they're like, okay, well, the people in the north, which are the predominantly Muslims, they want what's in the south, which is a lot of oil and access to sea and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, well, if you join hands together, we can get you access to this. So that was the incentive to join in. North is mostly desert, closer to the equator and stuff. People to the south, at the time, wasn't really that much educated or whatever. So they signed this deal was supposed to help in trades and whatever. And they've been battling it out since. Now they're trying to, sort of separate like the British did with the European Union and stuff.
Now you're a pretty educated fella, obviously. And of course you have a grasp on your home country. How was education and how much time, give me the years that you were in Nigeria and you're there with family, your whole family.
Yeah.
And so
Went to college there.
Okay.
Yeah. All my literally educational years was all down there. Moved to the U.S. when I was about 21.
21. You moved family, everybody?
Yeah, it was just me and my brother came to,
You and your brother?
Yep. It was a family trip, so everybody came and then, but me and my brother migrated and lived here.
Was it a hard
Eventually.
process coming in? Because obviously we hear about all the difficulties and the clogs in the wheel, and then people fly over walls at that point.
Of course, yeah. Leaving everything that you know to start in a new place is never easy for anybody,
Did you have any help?
Not so much, really. I had a friend that, tried to help and stuff like that. But along the way, kind of like make new families, right? You make new friends and just kind of like figure it out.
You landed where, in New York?
New York,
initially? And how long did you stay in New York?
Not so long, though. Just,
Not that long?
Not that long.
Why? Now, why'd you pick, give me the hopscotch steps to getting to Portland, or did you go direct? And
No, so it was New York to Michigan.
Okay.
Because we knew someone in Michigan, and then Michigan to Chicago.
Okay.
Chicago for a couple of years, and then here.
Okay. Now, from Chicago, obviously, you found yourself here. So how did that happen?
Met some friends over there. They were from Oregon, which is what they call what I called it back in the day, right? And they're talking about, Oregon is this and that. I'm like, that is about the farthest part of the U.S. you can ever go see. So I want to go see it. So my friends were making fun. They're like, black people are not allowed to go there. Did
they actually say that? It was kind of a known thing that we have a low population.
Everybody knew that except me, Okay. So as I came to Oregon, and eventually over the years, I come to realize that actually when it was being formed as a state, black folks weren't allowed to be here.
In the history.
In the history of Oregon.
Of Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay, way back. Okay.
Way back, yeah. So what they told me, I just realized about 3 years ago, wasn't a lie. It was just actual facts from back then. But I'm like, you know what? For that reason, I want to really go. So I got in the plane and I came out here and flying over, there was Mount Hood and then all the green and everything. That was a flashback to growing up. I grew up in the tropics.
Okay.
Southern part of Nigeria, right? So, which is straight up tropical. It's like going to Costa Rica or going to Hawaii or something. So I just fell in love right away, even before I touched down. Got out of the airport, the fresh, crisp air just hits you. It's like, yep, this is it. So
now, I'm not trying to speed along here, but I do have a lot to cover. So you're a family man. So did you you obviously met somebody and you started a family here in Portland, and that would have started.
Yep.
So you landed here on the plane. What year would you say?
05.
05?
Yeah.
Okay.
April 05.
And then you started a family.
Nope.
Okay.
I was seeing someone at the time and stuff, but I didn't really start a family till 2011, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, with my girlfriend at the time. I mean, we were together 4 years prior to that, but that was my firstborn son.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that. Having a family.
He's going to be 10 in October. This coming October.
Is he a handful?
Nah, he's awesome.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
I mean, just like me, super
Okay. Well, I was a handful. I start with my thoughts on myself sometimes when I was a kid, but I think with with having a family, and obviously you started it at after you'd arrived at one point, but so getting on your feet here in Portland, getting started, how did that start to, and we should go back and reflect a little bit for a second here in your country, because you are a very successful designer. You have your own store at Bridgeport in Lake Oswego, all the way from accessory designer to clothing designer. I mean, real quick, let's reflect back like we're in a kung fu movie and going for a reflection back with David Carradine and where did that go in terms of learning all the design? Where did you start with that?
I mean, Nigeria is full of very rich in culture, full of artisans, full of colors and stuff like that, you know. But I'd say I got my design ideas and abilities from my mother, Rose. Hence my business name, The House of Rose, designs by THOR. THOR stands for the House of Rose. So I named it after her, right? And since I was a little kid, I mean, that was what we did. We enjoyed doing that stuff. I picked up my first needle at 6 years old when I asked her to help me hem my pants. And she's always done it, but on that day, she was like, you know what? I'll do one leg, you do the other one. So come sit down and watch me do it. So I sat down. Had the attention span of a 6-year-old.
Yeah, right.
No, and she did one, and then she's like, okay, well, you do the other one. So she's taught me how to hem my pants. And since I was 6, I can pick up a needle and thread and hem a pants. Just by hand. No machines, anything. So it was all those little handworks, and then I got into the fabrics and texture and what goes with what and pairing, and you know, so that
starts a very early formative years.
Yeah. So for me, it was just like, oh yeah, that's what we did. I never thought about it that I was learning to be a designer or anything, or even heck, I hated it after a while. You know.
Sure. So when you landed in Portland, your intention was to, you know, make your way here, obviously in the United States, find a city you really liked, and you got off the plane, you loved it. I find you very on purpose whenever I talk to you, whenever we discuss what you do. I find it very directed. Where was your mindset then? Just find a job, get on your feet?
That was the thing. Find a job, get on your feet, you know, and figure life out.
Was designing and being a designer in your brain at that moment?
Nope.
In Portland when you arrived? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Well, I went to school to be an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a background in computer electronics engineering. So I loved it. I still tinker every now and then with stuff, but the designing part of it was just, you know, it's like you grew up playing a sport or something. It's part of you. It doesn't really leave, right?
Right.
So, like I said, I kind of hated design after a while. Like, you know, on the you know, putting together stuff, fabrics. There's this, because, you know, as a teenager, it's not like you're being paid to do it by your parents. It's like, okay, we're told to do this stuff, right?
Right.
But I love the hustle. I love the idea of dressing people. I love the idea of, you know, what can I do to be able to make your life better? Well, I'm getting paid for this stuff too, which is great. But then, how can I be able to?
You have a service. You have a natural nature of service within you,
Yes.
along with the creative idea of, like, when you're dressing somebody. Let's face it, it's very creative.
Absolutely. The whole point is, what can I do to be able to make you look better, feel better?
Okay.
You know. And I'm too OCD, so if there's something that is off about it, even though you wouldn't notice from a layman's perspective, I see it, and
Don't look too close today, Tony.
You're not gonna leave my store with it, you know. So, but yeah, from there it started. I was working here, you know. Eventually, I ventured into real estate to work for a bank. I'm like, okay, well, engineering can always be there, right? But I'd like to be able to raise some money to do some other stuff, right? So that was how that started. So my mom passed. And then the designing bug bit me. It wasn't there. Never thought about doing it. Yeah, I've always liked dressing a certain way because I was raised to dress that way. But it wasn't up until after she passed that the whole thing about this is what we always did. This was our thing. Mm-hmm. Yes, I ran from it for, you know, years, but I couldn't help it. This was our thing. So little by little, I started like gradually going back to that.
Interesting.
And then people were like, oh, wow, you did that? Okay, well, I like this stuff. Can I have one? And just like that, I'm like, people like this stuff. Okay, I didn't think I was good
So you're making clothes for yourself, and
Yeah.
and you started having people saying, "Hey, where'd you get that jacket or that shirt or what have you?"
Literally, that was it.
Now you got a great set of handbags. I mean, when I was kind of thrown back when I went into your store because number one, the quality was off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not. This isn't someone trying to figure it out and throw it together. I mean, I was not that I had that perception of you at the beginning, but it was so high quality. So tell me about quality.
Quality for me, my mom always said that anything that is worth doing well. If you're going to do it correctly. If you're going to half-ass it, don't do it. Because at the end of the day, people are going to say you did it. Now it comes down to your name again, right? Mm-hmm. If you didn't do it well, your name is going to be attached to that. If you did it right, so it's your call. You might take the extra 2 minutes to do it, or you have to go back. She will send you to go redo that stuff as many times as possible until you get it right. She doesn't care. Doesn't care if it's past midnight. You will keep redoing that chore until it's perfect, right? Mm-hmm. So that whole perfection idea thing was the benchmark for me when it came to designing stuff. In the beginning years over here, putting stuff together, there's some things that, I look back and I'm like, why I did that stuff? Back then I thought it was cool, but I'm always interested in getting my process better. I love perfection. So the refinement continuously. It's never, this is no, it's always has to be better.
I just got a reflection of mine because I know we both know Dave Dahl, Dave's Killer Bread.
Yeah.
He said something very similar, and he's got an engineering mind of sorts. He didn't go to school for it, but it's a natural in that gentleman. And he loves refinement. I think that's why he changed the bread, and it took him a long time to put it together and such. And you're taking you have the same kind of
same thing
approach.
Yeah, I didn't go to school for fashion. I never went to fashion school. I mean, when I wanted to do this as a business here, after I registered the business, I actually went and took classes from one of my guys back home that we've worked together for a while, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to spend 6 weeks with you. It's an intensive crash course. I want to learn how to do this particular stuff, and we just started working on that subject.
Well, when you step into a little bit of volume, that you're doing a considerable business over there at your store, and your network just continues to grow, and you've got a good customer return from what I can tell, as well as people I know that do business with you in terms of clothing and design. To duplicate you a little bit with volume and sourcing people that are going to hit your level of quality in terms of creating. Challenging here?
Very challenging, yeah.
Okay.
It takes time. I've had a guy one time that I trained for 2 years straight. He never touched a client's project. I paid him the whole time. 2 years straight. Like, you know what? It's not good enough yet.
Apprentice.
Paid apprentice. It's not good enough. I have to go back to drawing board until I was confident, you know what? I can give you a project and step away from this room and it's going to be done right. That was the very first time that it's like, okay, well, I can actually touch a client's fabric.
He was probably pretty excited at that point.
At the point, yeah. He was frustrated for so long,
Yeah, fetching coffee.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't stick too long after that. He stuck around for like another year. I'm like, okay, well, I'm good enough to go do my own stuff now.
You overtrained. You trained him too well.
I taught him way too much. So I learned my lesson on that one. Yeah. But yeah, it does happen because, you get someone in and then you have to put in that work to see. So they see what I see when I look at something. Now, when they're doing their stuff, it's like, okay, well, this is how Tony sees, this is how he wanted. It takes a while for that kind of stuff to happen, but yeah, it's absolutely possible.
Fib is a game for liars and thieves. It's the party card game that welcomes your poor etiquette. Lie, steal, laughter will ensue. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Fib is still pre-launch, and you get to play the game before anyone else. All you need is a printer. Head on over to www.fib.games now to download the free print and play. Fib, a game for liars and thieves.
I know you're still involved in real estate, and you're definitely an entrepreneur in different areas, but your love is your design, your fashion, being a fashion designer, and your store and working with people. I know that's really where your heart is. But there is an ends to the means, a means to the ends, I should say. So you started, being successful in aspects of real estate. At that point, did you have some goals with design? Did you know where you were heading?
No. When this fashion bug thing bit in 2008, was 2007, end of 2007, I was putting stuff together. I got some machinery, I got some fabrics, I got some inventory. Actually, I was planning on opening up a store here in Portland, and then the recession hit. Mm-hmm. And nobody was buying anything. The economy tanked. I haven't even built the network to be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyways and see what happens, right? So I went back to the drawing board. I went back to working for someone, for a company here. And I kept thinking, what can I do? I cannot risk getting a business loan to do something that nobody knows me here. Nobody's probably going to buy my stuff. To be in debt for a business loan. I already owned a home at the time. So I decided to figure out how can I do to raise money. So I went from the back end of real estate to actually getting my license to sell real estate. Shitty time to do that stuff, right? But in my head, I was thinking, okay, this is the worst time of it. I'm probably gonna make a lot of money right now, but it's gonna take me time to learn. So by the time the market turns around, I was always optimistic that it was gonna turn around. By the time it turns around, I would have learned all the basics to be able to handle it, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember my first interview with my principal broker at the time. She was asking me, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, in 5 years, I want to open up my own clothing store. She's like, oh, that's why you're dressed that way? I'm like, I guess so.
Yeah.
It's typical interview question, right?
Right.
So she proceeded to tell me that, there's people here, they came in with some ideas and stuff like that, but they've been here 10, 12, 15 years and they're loving it. I'm like, maybe, hopefully, we'll see. Mm-hmm. So when I left real estate, it was 2016. It wasn't as ceremonious as I planned it because I was already 1 foot out the door anyways. In 2015, I had this, what I called an identity crisis. Because in some parts of town, I've done a few fashion shows, people know me as a designer. In some part of town, all they know me was real estate. So it was a hassle coming to a room and introducing myself. And so, my name is Tony, I'm with XYZ company. They're like, I thought you were a designer. I'm like, oh yeah, that too. I thought at some point about printing both businesses.
Yeah, I was going to say both sides of the card, just depending.
I talked to my principal broker about it. They're like, nah, we can't allow that stuff. It has to be separate. And so when it eventually left in 2016, it wasn't as ceremonious as I wanted it to do, to leave. But I looked back at it 2 years ago in 2018 and realized that it was exactly 5 years. I started with the company, hung my license there August 1st, 2011. When I left was August 8th, 2016. I never thought about it when it was happening. It was literally a couple years later that I'm like, holy smokes. Mm-hmm. It was exactly 5 years.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I let the license lapse, didn't renew that, just went full force into this.
You acquired some properties?
I did, yes.
Did you acquire, because you definitely, the market obviously has appreciated somewhat, obviously, since then. And I know that you mentioned you have a portfolio of sorts, and you continue to build upon that. Mm-hmm. But obviously you do that very strategically, and I notice you're very, very good with your time. You're very
I'm terrible at time management.
You give me the feeling that you are, and that's fine, because I know that you have like two worlds, but I know that the real estate is very on purpose, and that's something that, but then you spend obviously a lot of time still at the store. For sure. You're pretty disciplined getting down there for your clients. Yeah. And taking care of that business. I'd like to talk about, what's going on with, of course, I don't think it's an overly spoken subject of any kind, because it's an important one. But the Black Lives Matter, you hear you were told that, the history of Oregon and all these things, you come here, you get on your feet, you get moving. And how do you, being African American, how do you think Portland's either received you, or what levels of obstacles, difficulty, even we'll use the word prejudice, that you experience in this town, or have you, or because a guy like me doesn't understand that completely, obviously, unless I'm walking in your shoes in terms of any levels of prejudice. But I'd love to hear you approach that. Okay.
So let me finish up the real estate one real quick and then I'll jump into
Then
this.
jump into that, yeah.
So you were asking, you like, I've acquired some properties and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the plan. Because I was saying that I'd like to raise money to be able to do this without having to go get a business loan. So my game plan was to buy investment properties that's going to be able to support me transitioning from real estate to doing what I love and want to do without having to worry about feeding my kids or paying my bills or something like that.
Or hence the bank loan to open things and
Exactly.
different things. Yeah.
So that was the idea. So that was able to set up the foundation basis for finances so that when I get to do whatever I do with my business right now, the House of Rose is all self-financed from day one. And it just keeps getting, I've had people say, I want to partner with you, but I really want to ask you for, your input when I want to make a decision on design or something, So
I all I can say is I sit here when I hear you tell me that, and because I've had some businesses myself and I've had to bootstrap it, but I admire it greatly to be able to approach it that way. And I know that's a crazy amount of work, and you have to be patient.
Sure.
And you just can't make all the moves you want to make right now. Sure. When you are working that type of strategy. Mm-hmm. So I commend you for it. I just know it takes a lot of discipline and patience.
It did. And I kind of put that towards my background, growing up in Nigeria, everything, there was not much for car loan. We don't do car loans. I mean, maybe I think it's becoming a new thing over there, or house loans or personal loans. You see someone driving a Rolls Royce, they actually paid cash for that stuff.
So it's a true reality.
It's a true reality, yeah. You see someone living in a mansion, they actually paid cash for it. It's not like, I get a loan and then, no. For the most, 99% of the people save up the money to do what they want to do with it. If they have a portfolio of real estate, it's all paid for.
We have a generation here in the States that went through the Depression that they tended to think that way. They really didn't get loans if they couldn't help it. They would pay everything in cash.
Absolutely. So, so for me, I was thinking, okay, well, I don't want to really get a loan and owe somebody for a business that is mine. And then if I default on that, my business and my baby's gone. So I want to actually build this and say, okay, this is in-house. This is me. So that's how the relationship, story ended. I'm still actively involved in real estate.
You're still on your journey.
I'm still on that journey. I love it. You know, it's once you take a bite of that apple, you can't really stop, right?
No.
So it's just keep adding to it. But then on the other end, when asked about the Black Lives Matter, it's a real thing.
Yeah, and I think we want to take that. I might ask you 3 questions.
Yeah.
You approach how you want to.
Okay.
Thoughts in terms of what you were told entering Oregon about, blacks aren't allowed.
Yeah.
That kind of conversation from Chicago.
Yeah.
And you pointing this city out and what kind of has unveiled itself to you. Mm-hmm. And then Black Lives Matter and the protests.
Yeah.
And you're a business guy, but yet I'm sure you have empathy and you have all sorts of stuff that's in that body of yours. So talk to me about this.
So when I first moved out here, saying, black people are not allowed to live there. I'm like, I want to find, I'm a stupidly curious person, and I wanted to see for myself. So I came out here, people were friendly, lots of fake smiles and stuff, not really from the, we'll call it toothy smile from where I'm from.
Toothy,
yeah. Because it's just showing you teeth, right? It's not from the heart, it's just,
it's that polite.
It's just
I'm gonna get.
superficial.
It doesn't cost me anything to give you the quick smile.
Yeah,
Okay.
But where I'm from, we hate that stuff because we always direct. We want to know if you're smiling at me. Are you
Very genuine?
Are you on my team or not on my team? Why smile at someone that you don't like? Doesn't make any sense. Why smile at a stranger that you don't know? Doesn't make any sense, right?
Right.
Then it took me a while because I was very excited that people smile. I'm like, oh, they like me here. And then one day I was walking by the grocery and saw this, lady smile, and I was looking at her face, and she turned her face, and it just died, like the light went out. I'm like, whoa, that's strange. So I started paying more attention. I realized everybody did it. It wasn't a real smile. They don't give a shit. They just show you the teeth and keep walking, right? Mm-hmm. So, different perspective. But then coming out here and then, realize there's not a whole lot of black people here. That's fine. I grew up in a very diverse place. We have a lot of expatriates, people from different countries coming over there to work in Nigeria because there's oil. So it supported a lot of other nationals, that come in there, live there. And it didn't bother me. I didn't know I was black until I came to Oregon.
Right.
Right. To me, I was just like a normal person, right? But I didn't know I was, you're this black guy until I came to the US and then Oregon. Okay, well. So walking to an elevator, you see someone clutching their purse. I mean, I've experienced it a few times, and I look at myself and I look at them like, what could I possibly steal from you right now? I find it extremely funny, Yeah. But then I'm like, it's their own prejudice. It's the way they were raised. They can't really help it. It's like, it's innate. It's in there, right? Maybe they're doing it because they feel like, this guy in a 3-piece suit is really going to rub me. Or this is how they do it. I'm supposed to clutch my purse or whatever. So the drive was there. My stuff is this is what I want to do. I can have a very clean and clear focus on my goals, and I can be driven. Persistence is my thing. It might not work out the first time. I'm gonna fall, but I'm always gonna get up. For me, those are the constants. Falling is a constant. Now, getting up, I've known from a young age, is up to me. So I have to get up and keep moving. My mom will always say, you can cry. It's okay to cry, but you can walk and cry at the same time. You don't have to sit there. Or you gotta keep moving. You can.
Your mom sounds kind of like a wise woman.
Oh, she is straight up, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can cry or run and cry at the same time, but you can't just sit here. You can't just stand in one place.
Yeah.
So I took those lessons to heart, and for me, it's like, okay, I just keep falling. I've tried so many businesses that didn't work out. I just keep falling. Okay, well, sure, no problem. What did I make? What mistake did I make? How can I tweak it? Does this make sense? And I just keep pushing it.
I want to touch on some of the riots and some of that, but I do want to approach what you're talking about that two steps forward, one step back kind of thing, or whatever. Fear of failure for a lot of people in business, or fear of a lot of things, but the fear of failure holds so many people back.
Absolutely.
And so you're saying your unique approach is there's going to be failure.
Yep.
That's what you're saying.
Set up your mind that you're going to fail eventually. It's a very scary thing. I mean, I think my mind is fucked up in a way because I look at life from a different perspective, right? But if you believe that chances of you failing is, say, 80%, but you want to try this 20% and going to really push this 20%, that is where that inner drive comes from. Because failure is not far behind. It follows success everywhere. Getting to the top is the easy part. Staying at the top, that's where you have to work. And some people, they don't know this, and then they fail and they get discouraged and they just fall out of the game. Failure is always right there with you. It only is a matter of time. It's not about if you will fail, it's about when you will fail at something.
So basically, the fear to failure is a constant. It's an accepted part of the equation for you.
You have to accept that you will fail eventually. It's not about if you draw the line, if you plan to leave your house and all the lights are green, you'll never leave your house. You're gonna hit red lights, right? You're gonna hit the amber light. You're gonna like, let me see if I can push through and hit it before the camera gets me from the red light, right? So you will fail, period.
Right.
Now, what you do after that failure is up to you.
Tell me about some of your heroes. Sounds like Mom might be one of them.
She's at the top there.
Yeah, I was going to say she's at the top. But do you have anybody who'd add to that list in terms of whether it be a mentor or people that, even if you don't know them personally, you read their book or whatever?
This book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a pretty good book. It's a really good book. It's all about, thinking about the finance and actually trying to figure out how to be able to be smart with what you're doing, and then The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't quite cracked that cover.
It's a beautiful book. Yeah. Because we were like, we care so much about what people think about stuff. What about what we think about it?
Now, I'm sure you've never read The Art of War.
I've read that too.
I knew you had.
Yeah.
I just had to throw it in there.
I read that too. Chess is one of my favorite games, you know? So, but yeah, you know, those things you just have to, sometimes you pay attention to what you see patterns.
Right.
You pay attention, right? And in some situations, it's like, okay, well, what do you have to give up to get what you want? What is the price you're willing to pay? Now nobody wants to pay any price. Like, let's say you want to be a doctor. The price to pay is the years you spend in school educating yourself, and then the internships, and then the housemanships and all that stuff that comes with that, right? You don't just say, okay, I want to be a doctor, and then boom, tomorrow it happens.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put in the time and the work. That is the price you're paying for it. So many things about life, you know, oh, I want to lose 50 pounds. The price you pay is working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just come off just by sitting there, eating, living your continual lifestyle. There's always a price to pay for something. Now the question is it too high? Is it acceptable to you? And those terms are relative. What's too high to somebody else could be like, oh, that's no big deal.
It's, you know, as driven as you are, I realize that we all appreciate obtaining some sort of financial success. But I don't think happiness is at the core of just financial success for you. So I'd like to ask, you know, because I know you're from being a family man to certain. I want to talk about a little bit more about your values. You're displaying some in the way you're communicating and how you think and stuff. But what are some of the things that are really key for you in terms of your value assessment of your values? And are you do you come from a spiritual standpoint with that, or does it just come from humanistic?
I come from a spiritual background,
Okay.
which I have come to question a lot, right? I grew up a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I love God.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jesus and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just lately feeling like some things about the Bible are not adding up the way they're supposed to, at least from my own perspective. Or I'm asking a lot more questions. And some like, oh, you're asking too much questions. I'm like, it's never too much questions. I want to know, you know? Are we missing parts of the Bible? Come some account and adding up. But it's just, I know the morals. I love the morals. I love the 10 Commandments. I love caring and being kind to people and loving people. So from what I took out from my whole Christian upbringing is love your neighbor as yourself. Treat your neighbor like you want to be treated. Simple as that.
Bit of a golden rule.
You know, it didn't say love your neighbor. Your neighbor has to be straight or gay or white or black or whatever. It just says your neighbor. So whoever the fuck that person is, pardon my French, just love them.
Mm-hmm. Acceptance, overall acceptance.
The way you want people to love you too.
Yeah.
That's it. That is my rule. So which some people might be like, oh, well, that's unchristianly because, you know, this person is
believing
gay
a
or
certain
whatever,
way.
or believing in a certain way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. That is where my questioning of that whole church thing comes into play. But otherwise, I'm 100% for God and caring about people and loving people and being kind to people. Because what's the point of being successful if you're not kind? You're a dick. I fired clients too that I felt like were not good people.
They had the money. They're buying high-end,
Like,
beautiful wares.
Find somebody else.
Yeah, okay.
Well, good luck with that. But find somebody else that's going to do what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot be a mean person. That's my thing.
Because they're in your space at that point. I always said, don't use my head for a garbage can.
I don't care how much money you have. You got to care about people.
Yeah.
So, and I know caring about people is relative based on people's perspective. Some people might say you're an amazing person. Some people always say no matter what you do, you never please everybody. That's a fact. I learned that from a young age.
What do you like to do with your off time?
Hanging out with my little people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I play soccer.
Yeah.
And then I hang with my kids. I take them to go play soccer with me and stuff. Yesterday we actually went to go see a Timbers game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A client's best friend, future client, hooked us up with some tickets and stuff.
That's nice.
Like, you know what? Hey,
that's
the
good.
Kids were amazed, blown away. They were super excited about it. Yeah. So,
Well, you've built quite a clientele here in Portland, and you have a complete mix of clientele.
I do.
And you don't necessarily have just wealthy people coming to you to get the real nice quality and your custom hand and design on them. But you have moderately people because they probably don't need 10 suits, they need 3 great ones.
Absolutely. I have a variety of people. I have all the way to down to high school kids that have saved up money. They say that they've been meaning to design something for a long time and they want to do this. And they come in and I help them make some good selection of choices on what's, appropriate, that makes sense. And and I have clients all the way to, I think my favorite one that I like to talk about is like he was 88.
Now, obviously, we're living in a world of COVID and things of that nature. And so having a store, having an overhead, the traffic's obviously been subdued a bit with mall traffics. And so how did you, it's an overused word, but pivot basically at those moments when things were slowing down? How did you, what did you do at that moment in time? And what have you been continuously doing? Because obviously the Delta just reared its ugly head. So what are you doing back then when it first hit? And what are you doing today?
Back then when it first hit, we were shut down for almost 3 months. So it was a great 3 months. I mean, home with the kids, playing every day, coming up with new stuff to keep us entertained and stuff,
Took advantage of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like, I don't know if get 3 months vacation,
Okay. All right.
for a minute. So took advantage of that, but in the meantime, still working on some stuff. I put together a collection I call the COVID collection. I think it's all sold off now anyways. You never really saw photo shoot.
Go.
Yeah.
Play off it a little, huh?
Yeah. So, but eventually we opened up and people still want stuff. People are still going to get dressed, People are now things are opening back up, even though Delta is here. And I think I heard there's a new variant that is coming out too. But it's eventually going to end up being like the flu, where there's so many variants of it, so many strains of it, and we'll find a way to cope. We're intelligent beings. We'll figure this thing out.
Yeah, that every 6-month booster or whatever.
Yeah. So whatever works for anybody, Now it's changing from the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. Now that's a new war. Before it was the Black Lives Matter, and then it was the LGBTQ stuff, and then there's always a way for people to find division amongst each other. Now it's the vaxxed versus unvaxxed. Or you're not vaccinated, you're getting vaxxed people sick, which doesn't make any sense because if you're vaxxed, you're supposed to be able to handle that stuff, right? And for the vaxxed people, some of you can still get COVID though. You wouldn't die from it, but like you get it means you can actually transmit it to unvaxxed people or other vaxxed people.
Yeah.
So
you still can be a carrier.
You can still be a carrier. We're all in that same boat. Some people have gotten the vaccination and have gotten complications from it and all that stuff. So there is a lot of mixed news, mixed messages, mixed people from people that you know personally. I have a few friends that I know personally that have gotten the vaccine and actually struggling with blood clots and all that, which is new to them. Perfectly healthy, adults. So I refuse to indulge in that war. Whatever works for you.
Right.
If it works, great. I don't wish you dead. I want you to live a long and healthy life. And, if the vax is great for you and you got that, absolutely, more power to you. Live a full life. And if you refuse to be vaxxed and you're living and you caught COVID and you survived COVID and you're still living life, amazing, more power to you too.
I was in the pharmacy and talking to the pharmacist about, they're delivering the vaccine. And I like the way she said it to me. She goes, vaccine's kind of a big word. We're used to just like you get one shot and it knocks it out for good pretty much. This is a helper. That's what you have to look at it, like a helper.
Yeah.
It will probably most likely it'll keep you out of the hospital. She says, that's how you look at this.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked her matter-of-factness about that.
Makes sense. Because traditional vaccine is like you get it, you're done with that stuff, right?
Right.
Like literally, you're not going to get it. Like you get a polio vaccine, you're not going to get polio. You get a smallpox vaccine, you're not getting smallpox or measles, So it nips that in the bud. But this, like you said, is a helper. It just is continuously evolving.
I think it's polite to wear a mask, because really it's all about, they say that the mask isn't about you inhaling something from the air. It's about you dispersing through the mask your own issues if you got the bug or whatever. And I liked also when there's a mask argument, this gentleman that knows something about fabric, but more medical and micron fabric, he said, he goes, you got to realize the virus doesn't have wings. It's not a bee. It doesn't like just fly out of your mask. It has to travel on your particles.
True.
And your particles are the size of aircraft carriers. And in terms of you're just talking normal, you have some sort of moisture going out of your mouth. All the time. And he said, guess what carries on those? The virus. So the mask may not block the virus like they all like to talk about, but it's blocking the aircraft carriers, which is the moisture. It blocks that, which they're on.
Yeah.
He said, so, they're not bees. They don't fly at you.
Yeah. That's true.
That made a lot of sense.
That's very scientific as it is. It's a simple breakdown.
Yeah. Not that we're going to sit here and solve all the mask debates, because that becomes it's like a political potato. You get into a mask debate with people, but
it becomes a political thing where so these people are against these people, and it's just a way to keep us divided while they are making the rules and they passing the laws and stuff that is going to affect us all down the road, but we're not paying attention to that. We're paying attention to fighting each other, whether you're wearing a mask, you're vaccinated or not, or you're gay or white or black or whatever. We'll just keep fighting about bullshit while the laws have been passed, and we just keep avoiding that stuff without paying attention to it.
Well, one thing, and I don't want to make this, we could probably have a whole conversation about this, but let's get back to you, because that's what we're doing. But people are with the Black Lives Matter. I wanted to hear you speak specifically to whether it be their cause and what they're trying to get done. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm glad you brought that back up. At first, I didn't get it, to be honest with you. At first, when I came to the US, I was like, okay, well, these guys are just lazy. They are not functioning. Like, if I was born here, I'd be a billionaire right now. I could be.
I'm not going to debate that.
I could be not. I could not be. So, but the more that I started looking into it, I understand the Black Lives Matter movement. The destruction of property doesn't make any sense, but hey, with a riot, it happens worldwide. It's not just about black people or white people. It happens anywhere there's a riot or civil unrest. They destroy shit. For some reason, makes them feel better. I don't know why. They destroy their own neighborhoods. Doesn't make any sense. But coming down into the root of it, the black people are only asking for equity. You know what I'm saying? Don't put me back where, because I'm like, it took me a while to start feeling the same pains that they were feeling about the whole, like, oh, you're black? No, we don't. I've lost out on so many jobs just because of my last name. On so many opportunities just because someone's like, oh yeah, well, okay, sure. And it goes to someone else that is way less qualified. Like, you know what? This is America. This is the way it works. What happens? Just keep pushing. That's just it. That I'm talking from personal experience.
Right. On
so many levels, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Heck, if I were them, I'd do the same thing too. I give my family members stuff first before, So I'm just like, okay, well, they're not my people. I just keep pushing, trying to, break my own ground, find my own way and stuff like that.
Persistence. You
just keep going. You're going to fall. Okay, now get up and keep moving. Cry on your way, but keep moving.
Some of these people didn't have your mama to
They didn't have
you.
that, and that is
you didn't have your mama to help teach you.
And that was my next point. That is what it took me to realize, wow, this is what's going on. Because a lot of them, as educated as some of them are, didn't even know that they could, I should go get a loan on a house, go get a house, go invest in something, step out of the box and say, you know what, hey, this is my passion. I want to jump and do it.
And you're not debating with them or you're not trying to make a point that saying to them, hey, it's easy for you. You're saying, no, it is tough.
The thing is not about being easy or tough. It's about them knowing that it's possible.
Okay.
That they can actually do it. Because all their lives growing up is like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't live here, you can't live there. It's all about realizing that you can do whatever you want to do. A lot of them don't know that.
Some self-empowerment.
And that is where it finally hit me. It's like, oh, no, these guys are not lazy. They are hardworking as hell. They want to do something, but they just don't know how to do what they want to do. They don't even know where to begin. There's not much mentors in the hood to teach them how to do that stuff. Their parents maybe were not that educated. Probably not.
On the commercial that kept repeating on the TV set when it was showing Black Lives Matters, there's it's unfortunate I don't have his name to mind, but African-American guy, he would end the commercial with, "We need to go from protest to policy." He, in other words, he felt that, okay, we've protested, but let's get into policy.
change something,
Let's do something,
Absolutely.
right? And I thought that was a great way to end the commercial, because I thought, there's been a point made in a big way. What do you do with that?
You can change policies, but things that you have to have people around, enough movement to be able to change it. Because if you have the other people in there that are not on your team, they're not really eager to change that policy. See what I'm saying? You want to have, I'm trying to make pizza, right? And you want to have tofu on it. I don't eat tofu. I have all these assorted meats that I can put in it. And there's a few other people that have all this, meats that want to put in the whole pizza, and then you're like the odd man out that wants this tofu and this stuff. If you're not really paying attention or something, and you're busy playing Lego or whatever, we can make just a meat pizza.
Right.
Like, well, you can pick the meat out if you don't want to eat the meat and just eat the pizza anyways. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's have to be enough people in that circle, in the political circle, to be able to change the policies, to be able to have their voices heard on that extent. Otherwise, it's just us politicians on the table and all these outsiders yelling about what they want.
When it comes to Oregon, knowing that we have a low population, low percentage of African American, getting a voice and getting people in the proper seats and things of that nature, I would think would be a bit challenging.
It is. It will be. Absolutely. Now, the thing is, screaming about it, it might have its impact. In my opinion, it won't change much. It's about personal development, knowing what you know, getting information, knowing what you know now, that you can actually do what you want to do. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then if there's enough Black people that actually go out, they say, we have this dream, we can go this way. How can we be able to put together to go this direction? Now you're amassing numbers. You're not divided anymore.
Okay, we're going to end on this. And this has been an extended version. Normally they're a half hour. I think we're at 45 minutes. So I appreciate the people listening in, but I find it also fascinating. I'd like to hear about you passing on some of your knowledge to your kid.
My little guys.
Your little guys. So how do you mentor them, and what do you find in a parenting role? Because I think it's so important to pass down some of these principles that you adhere to.
Yes. And that is our role, is when you say something, you mean that stuff. If I promise them something, I'm not changing my mind on it. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It's happening. They know me for that. And I started that from a young age. When I say something, what I tell you means something. So that way, when you say something to somebody else, mean that stuff. Don't just say it to get away from a situation. No. Actually mean that. So
your word is big.
Your word is big. Now be careful what you make promises about, but know that when you put your feet down and say, what, this is happening, follow through with it. And then I've been teaching them about failure from a very young age. You're going to fail. People are going to laugh at you. Get used to that. Laugh at yourself first. Because they have nothing to laugh about. Make fun of yourself.
Yeah, it kind of strips it, doesn't it?
It kind of strips it. What are you going to tell me that I don't already know?
Right.
Who's going to come to me right now and tell me, Tony, that is going to be a shocker to me? Oh, yeah, I know.
So you're teaching them some clever skills in terms of someone not getting to them.
Absolutely. I was bullied in school, so I get that. It took me a while to be able to break away from that and fight my way out of it. But it's like, now that you know this, persistence. Kids will tend to give up easily. Everybody wants to go with the path of least resistance, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, fight your way out of it.
Well, as things develop here in Portland and as things come back around, come back and see us again. Come sit in the chair, because I'm sure I'll have some more stuff to bring up.
We've got a lot of stuff. We
could talk, couldn't we? So anyway, thank you today with stepping in with and listening to our conversation with Tony Iyke, designer here in Portland, and appreciate you coming by.
Of course. Thanks a lot for having me. Yeah.
You've been listening to the Portland Interview Magazine podcast. Go to TalkCastPDX.com for past episodes and check out all the great local programming on TalkCast PDX. That's TalkCastPDX.com.